used within an octave. He uses all of those. So between E and C, he uses all of the notes. And then he's also using C sharp and a D. So the only thing is missing is E flat, I think, and B natural. So that's the only two notes short of the real 12-tone row of what's dodecaphonic, which would be 200 years later. So that's a big futuristic fugue, so to speak. Also, chromatic in Baroque means that what I call pain and suffering. It's a this is how they expressed when they wanted to express emotions of something very painful, something you have to overcome. And so if you can be a little bit more expressive in this subject, to show those, the differences, the half-step differences between the notes. The only non-chromatic is this one. So he gives a little bit of a diatonic at the end, but everything else is so chromatic. Modulation inside, so because he starts, that's almost like a C major, then there's a G minor, and then finally a D minor. So it's a very complicated subject. It's like the three different keys inside, and so if you can show that, I wrote that some subjects were a little inconsistent. Like the first subject was good, second was pretty clear. Some of the later ones were not always consistent in their shaping and direction. So if you can be, clearly show that this first three notes go towards the fourth one. Then the next three go towards the next fourth one. And then B flat. On how do you shape it. Try to feel it in one rather than three. 1, 2, 3. Just do it more like 1 and so you have a larger beat in mind. Let's try it. Let's try the beginning. That's more clear. Let's try one more time, like more in one. Yes, much better. Keep going. Let's just try it again. I mean, not again, but keep going. I don't know what it is, like 25, 30 or something, and try to do it in one more often. So it gives you the feeling, because that's how harmony actually changes, by measures. Mostly he stays in one harmony within one measure, more or less. And if the harmony were truly changing on every beat, you know, like, then it would be harder to do in one. But it's really changes once per measure, and so it makes sense to be in one. So if you can go over the entire fugue and just make sure that those subjects are very consistent and we can hear that direction towards those important notes. And then, so every time, okay? Including the octave. Now, about the articulation. It's fine to play it legato. Personally, I play it slightly detached, very, very little. You don't have to if you don't like it. Why? Because, well, the rule says in Baroque times that if there is a interval of a third or larger, you should detach it. Here there are no intervals a third or larger, but it doesn't mean you can't detach it if you wanted to. To me, it just makes it a little more expressive to do it slightly detached, gives more weight to notes, and like it's like you're separating words a little bit more, so people listen more carefully. You know, like if you're doing that, it's like it prints in your head better. You're sort of like in the listeners, it gives a little bit more impression. But again, you don't have to. The only place where I would definitely detach is this, because that's basically dominant harmony, arpeggio based, not scale based. There's a jump of a fifth, so here you're pretty much required to detach. And C sharp just for symmetry, you know, like this is a major third. If there was, usually thirds are detached too, unless there is a bunch of them going like this. In that case, no, they should be legato. But if it's just a single third and plus the dominant harmony, it makes it stronger. So here I will definitely detach every time in all of the subjects. And every time you have, especially if you have an octave, so definitely like walking bass, especially when it's in the left hand. And these are optional, up to you, if you want it or not. You know. So the differences would be, if you play legato, it makes it a little bit more lyrical, a little weaker in character. And if you play it slightly detached, it makes it less lyrical, more kind of heroic, almost like stoic, you know, and a little stronger by energy versus. So everybody chooses their own, you know, what character they think, you know, more lyrical versus, you know. So I'm going to leave a question mark there, like put detached, but not short. Definitely not short. Almost legato, almost. Like the longest kind, the partata kind. If you do it, or just leave it like that. Just extra expressive. Yeah. What else? Some of your dynamics were very clear. Some of them were a little less clear. I would like to hear a little bit more terrace dynamics in the fugue. You probably know the term terrace dynamics, right? Have you heard about it? So in the Baroque times, the main principle, and actually not only Baroque times, early classical and even late classical, they use a lot of terrace dynamics for sudden changes. So the fugues to me are, Baroque fugues are like layered cake. There's like a subject or like stack of pancakes. So this is the one subject, then the second pancake, second subject, third, fourth, and it builds. This, you know, the stack of pancakes gets bigger, 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 bigger until there is an episode. And the episode is like somebody eats those pancakes, and you know, like, and it gets thinner suddenly. So it's usually lighter textures, and there is not so. Episode is like relief. We cannot have that intensity all the time, even in a fugue like this. It would be a little too much for humans to have that chromaticism thrown at them at all times. So he gives us episodes like this. Which are perfectly diatonic. It's like, oh, thank goodness, you know, we have some diatonic harmony now. No, not so much pain and suffering. So a little bit lighter. So those episodes to me could be lighter, and you did some of it, but just a little bit more clear. You know, this is episode 1. There's like 7 episodes in this humongous fugue. You can find them. Its episode is anything which does not have a subject. That's called episode. And usually they're thinner, lighter, and less intense, serve the contrast point. So be not all episodes necessarily have to go softer. Maybe you can. This is an extended episode. Maybe you can drop the sound later. Actually, here. Probably not a good place to drop it. I will go maybe later here. More clearly, like it's like you're playing on a different manual of an organ or a harpsichord. Suddenly you just move, and then when the subject comes in, then you turn it on again, you know, and then. So this one is another draw. I would play slightly staccato on the because there are pages. And they're all jumpy. They're not melodic. Here's melodic. I would not play staccato on this one. And then there are some hidden voices in some of those textures. For example, anytime a Baroque composer goes, there is like a moving voice. So I would bring out those notes slightly more. In this case, they're symmetrical in both hands. To bring out. So the classic example, Bach, the Toccata and Fugue in D minor for organ. Even on the organ, which is has the same volumes, you can make the lower notes slightly longer, and they stand out that way. So there's a hidden voice. It's written like in one line, in one group. It's not written like two voices. but it is in fact two voices because this is just a repetitious pedal point, and the real melody is here. Something like that happens here too. It doesn't happen everywhere, but just look for those da 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 da, you know, those broken arpeggios kind of thing. That kind of hidden voicing in episodes. It doesn't happen in the subject in this piece. What else? Trills. Okay. When the trill is written over a long note, you don't have to play it in rhythm. Your trills were a little too slow. You were trying to measure them. There is no need to measure trills when it's just a trill on a long note and there is no rhythm to it. Here is an example of measured trill. When you see a dotted 8 with the 2/16 and a trill written, that means it's a measured trill with 8 notes. And you did it correctly. This one you did correctly. But those are quick and measured trills. If you don't need to time it. And they should be at least 30 seconds, not 16. 16 will be too slow. All of them, except like this. This is measured trill. This is all written in the books of Baroque musicologists, and they explain how to do ornament. This one was correct too. You see there is a tail here of the trill. If there is a tail and a dotted note before, it's measured. So this one you did correctly. But it's still quick, right? It's not. No. It's like so, yeah, there are others here. Don't measure it. Or if you want to measure it, do 30 seconds, not 60. No. If you want to do that in the rhythm, but you don't have to. What else? So look for episodes, so that's where we would drop, at least on some of them. What else? Another quick throw. Here's a good time to draw. Now, about adding an octave, it's totally allowed, and especially when this piece is played on the harpsichord, Bach had at his disposal. The harpsichord had different stops of, that is, different sets of strings. So it was not just one sound on the harpsichord, there was up to 5 different sounds possible. So there are 5 sets of strings on Bach harpsichords, and the ones he had access to. And there were 2 8-foot long strings, so-called 8-foot stop, which plays the note at the same pitch as written. There would be at least 1 or 2 4-foot stop. When you play this note would sound. So when you turn on a 4-foot stop in addition to 8-foot stop, you will get an octave. Everything will be in octaves. And so this fugue on the harpsichord will sound thicker. If you turn on the 16-foot stop, then you'll have a double octave. So instead of playing, you'll get this sound. By playing single note, so everything will be doubled up. So that's perfectly okay to have that extra octaves, and you did some of them. Yeah. You can do more if you want. For that reason. And that's why sometimes when I play the Fantasie, I consider it doubling it in octaves. Because a single line on the piano just doesn't sound intense enough to me. You know? Because for sure, opening like that on the harpsichord would have multiple stops, like all of them, everything. So everything will sound more like, even though it's not a huge volume, but it's a thicker sound. So consider that in the fugue as well. What else? When you play in one, coming back to the subject of having like a feeling in one, that gives you more density. In this fugue, in addition to this content of something overcoming some difficulty, struggle, pain, suffering, there is also element of a dance, because it's elegant. So yes, it's intense and heavy at times, but there is a dance feel for it. For example, definitely this. So there is some sort of a minuet behind it. You know, rhythmically, there is that minuet dance. So 1, 2, 3. So there is that kind of feel even in that. Especially with a ta-ta-ta, there's like steps of minuet, you know. If it was only on quarter notes, 3/4 notes all the time, then I would, somebody would argue maybe it's not. But here it's definitely ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. So it's a minuet rhythm behind it, or some other 3/4 dance. So don't lose that feel in one. That will help you. Make sense? And then question of the pedal. Bach and pedal. I think in Bach there are pieces where pedal should not be used, and there are pieces where pedal can be used, and this might be one of them. For example, if you play invention number 8 or 1. There's really no place to do a pedal there. Very little, maybe a little bit like in the middle, there's maybe one tiny bit section. It's not needed. There is a lot of scale motion. If you use a pedal there, it's going to get muddy very quickly. But here, to underline some of this chromaticism, it may not be a bad idea to use a little bit of pedal and give it acoustic, like help with the acoustics. A lot of modern places for performances are dry, and unless the place you may need a pedal to help. And especially when you do those octaves, they just sounded too dry without pedal at all. So be careful not to get too muddy because it's chromaticism after all. Otherwise it will get, if you're not careful, you can have this effect which is not very pretty. But some pedaling to make the sound more ambient, I think is appropriate. Also the modern piano, comparing to harpsichord, the dampers are so much stronger. They shut the sound very quickly if the dampers will work well. On the harpsichord, dampers are very weak. And even the sound is not that strong either, but it continues longer. When you play the harpsichord, everything sounds like you have a little bit of pedal on because of that effect. So harpsichord sounds a little more wet than the piano when not using the pedal. So if you think it was written for harpsichord, then a little bit of pedal is okay. Try it somewhere like towards the end. Can you do like there? Yeah, a little bit on those notes. So it's not so dry. Try it. So something like that. However, there